Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman was the first Democratic senator to visit Mar-a-Lago, and he says he's committed to working alongside Republicans, but can he find a middle ground?
Well, Democratic Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman may be the new brand that Democrats desperately need. Here he is on The View after he was accused of, quote, cozying up to Trump.
There are those on the left who feel like you have made a rightward shift recently, going to Mar-a-Lago, joining Truth Social, your positions on issues like immigration, fracking.
SunnyHostin has never been one to shy away from throwing shade, but this time she picked the wrong target. What started as yet another predictable anti-Trump rant on The View took an unexpected turn when she found herself clashing with Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. However, instead of steering the conversation as she usually does, Hostin quickly lost control. Fetterman, known for his direct and pragmatic approach, calmly and methodically countered her accusations, leaving her flustered, defensive, and ultimately storming off the set in frustration. The exchange began when Hostin accused Fetterman of being a traitor, simply for offering a fair and balanced assessment of Donald Trump. Expecting him to backpedal, soften his stance, or issue a politically safe apology like many before him, she was caught off guard when he did the exact opposite. Unfazed by the pressure, Fetterman stood his ground. Rather than allowing himself to be misrepresented, he schooled Hostin on politics in a way that left the audience gasping, and even some co-hosts visibly uncomfortable. With his signature no-nonsense demeanor, he explained that real leadership isn't about blind loyalty to a party or ideology. It's about making decisions based on facts, not emotions. He pointed out that regardless of personal opinions on Trump, the reality is that he remains a major political figure, and pretending otherwise is simply ignoring the facts. Fetterman then turned the discussion on its head, calling out the hypocrisy of political analysts who demonize anyone refusing to conform to a one-sided narrative. As Hostin, visibly rattled, attempted to interrupt, Fetterman remained composed and unwavering. By the end of it, her frustration boiled over, and she abruptly left the set, leaving a stunned audience behind.
I mean, honestly, I haven't been surprised by anything now. I mean, he's been doing essentially what he actually campaigned on that. He announced he is going to pardon the J6 individuals. He is going to absolutely go after the border. So there's a lot of things that he's already ran on. I mean, criticized a lot of it, and I don't agree with everything either, but it's undeniable he actually ran on that and been really upfront. He's like, I am your reputation, and he's, kind of making those moves. So that's kind of where we're at. Early on, immediately after the election, I was like, hey, we have a choice. We can freak out and follow every other thing around, like a cat, with a laser, after he won. But I'm not that guy. I'm not going to be that Democrat. For me, there's things I'm going to agree with, I'm going to disagree with, but I'm in the business of finding wins for Pennsylvania and for the nation, and engaging the president. I think I see that as doing my job.
Well said. And I wanted to ask you, so you went down to Mar-a-Lago and met with the president, and he actually was singing your praises after. He said you were fascinating, impressive, a common sense person. I agree with him on that.
Fetterman bluntly pointed out that this kind of emotionally driven, divisive rhetoric is exactly why people are losing trust in mainstream media and political discourse. He made it clear that he wasn't there to play partisan games. He was there to talk about reality, something The View seemingly has no interest in anymore. The atmosphere in the studio shifted dramatically. The usual smugness on SunnyHostin's face had vanished. The audience, which The View typically counts on for loud, one-sided cheering, sat in stunned silence. Even Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, who usually rush to defend their co-host, seemed hesitant to step in. It was obvious to everyone watching, Sunny had overplayed her hand, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. Desperate to regain her footing, she made one last attempt to shift the conversation, accusing Fetterman of normalizing Trump. But by then, the damage was done. Fetterman simply looked at her and said, "You don't have to like someone to be fair about reality. That's called being an adult." The room erupted. Gasps, murmurs, and even a few claps could be heard as Hostin's face turned red. She opened her mouth as if to respond, but seemed at a complete loss for words. Then, in a moment no one saw coming, she stood up, grabbed her cue cards, and rushed off the set. The silence that followed was unbearable. The cameras cut to commercial almost immediately, but the moment had already made its mark. Within minutes, clips of the exchange were circulating across social media, with many calling it one of The View's most humiliating moments ever. Viewers were stunned.
Not a liberal or a conservative. I'm curious what your takeaway was from meeting with him, and what, if you found that there's any specific policy areas you think you can work with him on.
Yeah, well, I think overall it was a positive experience. I mean, he was kind, he was cordial. It wasn't in any kind of theater. It wasn't trying to get your picture taken to kind of put something out on social media. It was just really a conversation. I actually spoke for over an hour. And overall, my wife was there, and she might be watching right now at home. Hi, Giselle, if you're home. And she was there as well, too, and we just had a conversation. And now one of the things, can we agree on? Well, one of the things that was easy, like the Dreamers, the Dreamers, immigration, that. And Giselle was part of that community, and we both had the opportunity to express that. I would also, I'm on the Ag Committee, and I think protecting the SNAP as well, too. Food insecurity is really important issue. And some people on that side wants to go after that or weaponize that. So for me, those are kind of issues, other things that we can agree on as well. But
the fallout from this explosive moment didn't just affect SunnyHostin, it sent shockwaves through The View's entire ecosystem. Behind the scenes, producers were in full-blown crisis mode, scrambling to figure out how to salvage the situation without drawing even more attention to it. They had hoped that Sunny storming off the set would be a minor incident that could be glossed over, but instead, it became the defining clip of the entire episode. Damage control meetings were held almost immediately after filming Wrapped, with insiders reporting that Sunny was livid over how things had played out. Allegedly, she ranted about Fetterman being disrespectful and condescending for daring to challenge her, but the reality was clear. She had walked right into the confrontation and then crumbled under pressure. Meanwhile, viewers weren't buying any of the excuses. Social media exploded with commentary, with many claiming that The View had finally been exposed for what it truly is: a one-sided echo chamber where dissenting opinions aren't just unwelcome, but actively silenced. People pointed out the glaring hypocrisy. Sunny had no issue calling Fetterman a traitor on live television, yet the moment he responded with a well-reasoned rebuttal, she couldn't handle it. Had the roles been reversed, if a conservative guest had walked off mid-debate, The View and its supporters would have mocked them mercilessly. But because it was Sunny who cracked under pressure, her fans scrambled to make excuses. The irony? Fetterman wasn't even being aggressive. He wasn't shouting, interrupting, or launching personal attacks. He was simply laying out the facts and refusing to be steamrolled.